Chris, a pretty strong performance from your guys and a third straight win, which I imagine is the most important thing. What did you make of tonight's game?
Yeah, it was a bit of a to and fro sort of game. I felt like there were times when we looked like we're going to run away with it, and to Giants' credit, they came back at us. But I felt like we controlled the game pretty much for most of it, especially on the scoreboard. And when we were able to, there were patches in the game, particularly early in the third quarter, where we were able to play the game our way a little bit more. We were able to score pretty heavily. So that was a fairly important patch in the game, I reckon, that and the start. So, no, it's good to, travel a couple of weeks in a row, get a couple of wins on the road. We're 1 win and 2 losses after 3 games. We're now 4 and 2. So we've got our season for the time being up and going, and hopefully we can build on that. Not just going off results, but in general, do you sort of think that the way you've responded in the last 3 weeks, the season's building in about the way you'd like it to? Yeah, to be honest with you, and I've been asked this every week for the last 4 or 5 weeks, I feel like the only poor performance that we've really had this year was against Port Adelaide in round 1. They played extremely well that day, so I'm not taking anything away from their effort, but we did, by our own standards, play pretty poorly. I think since then, our one loss has been against the Western Bulldogs at Marvel Stadium. Their form's been pretty solid. They've beaten some good teams. We're 2 points down with 5 minutes to play in that game. So that wasn't a terrible effort. So I feel like our last 4 weeks have been pretty solid. And Charlie Cameron, he's kicked 17 goals in 3 weeks. Maybe it's a silly question, but what's working for him right now? Because he's in just electric form. Yeah, he's just he's a great player, and he's a real opportunist, and he's had some opportunities the last few weeks, and he's made the most of them. So, and the other thing about him is when his pressure's up, he tends to score, and that's been the case the last few weeks. So that's key to his game. If he's doing those 1%ers, the other things just seem to fall into place for him. So. Well done to Charlie. He's a pretty important player tonight, I would have thought.
Did you have a chat to him about that the soccer goal at all? Well, there was some debate whether he meant it or not.
Oh, I'd have to watch the tape to see if he meant it or not. But at the time, I just thought that might have been a fluke. But he won't like me saying that.
So won the clearances overall, got 6 goals from clearances. It seems like you've got a good mix of line breakers and ball winners going into each centre bounce and the stoppages. How have Ashcroft and Dunkley changed or helped how you set up around those?
Yeah, so we're still trying to get used to those guys being in that part of the ground for us, and making sure that all of our players who have got capacity in that phase of the game get their turns in there. But Josh Dunkley brings he's a great two-way player, I reckon. Josh, he attacks the ball and wins the contest and runs hard forward, but he also runs hard back and is pretty accountable for his opponents. So he's added that element to us. And Will's a good ball winner, and he's really creative once he gets the ball. And you would have seen a few of those instances tonight. So they just add a little bit more to our artillery in there, but we've still got to keep working out the best way to play them all in there, because we've got a few now, which is a good problem to have, but we want to maximise the use of them.
Early on, Jack Gunston was giving some of the Giants defenders fits with some of his leading patterns. What's he been able to add to the forward line mix?
Yeah, well, that's the thing about Jack. He's a very clever, crafty forward, and he makes defenders turn their heads. And I think that's what he's added to us. We're still learning to play with Jack. I think there are times when he's out and we don't see him. He's only played 6 games, 5 games just because he missed one. So that's to be expected. But I hope as the year goes on, we start to learn how to best kick the ball to him, and we can maximise the chances he creates for us inside 50. But his education of the other forwards, because he's so experienced and been through a lot of things, has been sensational. And I think he's had a really positive effect on our team, but I think he can get even better.
You've got about the best spread of any team in targeting different forwards inside 50. How much does sacrifice mean to that forward unit?
Well, it means a lot. We don't want to be that team that goes to the one bloke all the time, because I think when it comes to finals. It's a little easier for teams to pick you off if you're predictable going inside 50. So the fact that we've got a good mix of targets is important to us, and we've got to keep going with that. We don't want to become reliant on any one player. So that's the key going forward. You know, I was lucky enough to be at Hawthorn in some pretty good years, and you know, when Lance Franklin went to Sydney, we were sad to lose him. But it was an interesting thing happened. We became this team that nobody could really predict where the ball was going to inside 50, whereas when Lance was there, because he attracted the ball, it went to him so often, so we became a little bit easier to pick off. So I've always had that lesson in my mind, and trying to help us create that forward line where we have multiple targets.
There was a bit of, in my view, unfair media criticism on Eric Hipwood and Joe Danaher at times this year. What does a good game for those taller targets look like? It's not just about goals, I'm guessing.
It's not about goals. It's about, we want them to kick some, of course. It's about assists, you know, creating goals for others. It's also about halving contests when the ball's in the air, so that opposition teams aren't taking intercept marks. And it's about their ability to bring pressure when it's required. So I think by and large those boys have been pretty good since they copped a beating after the Bulldogs game. It's not easy being a big forward. You know, pressure upfield is often good on teams, and numbers back. So as long as we get there, that an honest effort every week, we're happy with that.
You guys set up a tiny bit differently, but some of the time too, with Charlie playing super deep and you were running Josh a bit deeper and
Yeah.
Will. Do you reckon that sort of helps throw other teams a bit off base and help? You had more than 30 front half intercepts, I think, tonight.
Yeah, we did. We had 30.
Does setting up a bit differently and having a pressure guy a bit higher up, or a guy who can lay pressure, sort of help that?
Yeah, I mean, we always try and mix up our mix, I guess you could say. It's a silly answer, that, but we've got you know, small forwards who can mark the ball and are dangerous close to goal, and we've got tall forwards who can play up the ground and help connect us up. And some weeks it suits us to play our small forwards closer to goal, and other weeks it suits us to play our talls because we think we might get an advantage with them. So like last week, we felt like we potentially could, and we did. So you know, we don't, as I said, we don't want to be that team that's predictable, that always sets up the same way.
Just one. New coach at GWS, they're doing some fairly different stuff system-wise. What struck you as different or surprising compared to previous matches against them?
Oh, look, I think, you know, tracking them, they obviously, Adam's been at Richmond and they've played in a certain way, and you can see bits and pieces of Richmond flavour coming through in the way that they go about it, particularly the running handball chains. Mind you, that's always been a bit of the way the Giants have played, the orange tsunami days when they were really flying, those handball chains where they could take the ball from one end of the ground to the other. But no, I think that's what we're seeing, and you know, they wouldn't go away tonight. They played with real determination, and you know, I think they'll beat quite a few teams this year, the way that they're going about it.
We all good on the injury front?
Yeah, we've got nothing, I don't think. We took Dara Joyce off mainly because they lost Taylor, unfortunately for them. He was a very good player. And so we didn't think we needed two tall backs because Himmelberg went into defence. So we just took Dara off and gave Jared Lyons a run and put Darcy Wilmot down back. So, yeah, we're all clear. I don't think we got any injuries in our reserves today either. So, good day for the club in that regard. A couple of wins and no injuries.
Were you surprised to see them throw Harry back up forward after that spell down back?
Oh, they were trying to win the game. You know, good on him. So, you know, he's an invaluable forward, and they might have thought because we took one of our tall defenders out that they could get an advantage that way. So, no, it was good coaching by them.
And you mentioned Dara came off. He was maybe a bit more of a surprise packet for some in the media. He's provided a big impact for you guys this year.
Yeah, I think he's learning. I mean, in his time at St Kilda, I don't think he ever played any more than one game in a row. So it's difficult to develop. I think he had 9 games at St Kilda, nine times one.
Yeah.
That's hard. He's played, I think, 5 in a row for us now, and you can see every week that he's just getting a little bit better with the experience and starting to trust himself and not second guess himself. So no, he's been a good acquisition for us, and particularly, the fact that we haven't had Darcy Gardner available to us at all yet. He's played an invaluable role, and hopefully, I'm pretty sure he'll keep developing because he's got a great attitude.